Facebook turned on so I can.
All right, I think we're ready to rock. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us here at Champions Real Estate Team, Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate, talking real estate segment here on our Facebook Live. So we do this once a week, 12 o'clock noon on Wednesday. Today we have Jeff Peterson with the Champions Real Estate Team joining us, as well as Russ Williams at Arbor Bank. Kind of give us the mortgage update, what's going on with rates and all that kind of fun stuff. Our other regular Rich Howdle is on Lake McConaughey, so he's out there with the family. So hope he's having a good time. But I want to touch base with you guys again. Every week we do this at 12 o'clock, just kind of give you a quick update of what's going on in the mortgage rates. I'll pull up our little that graph that we do every week here. So basically we had 436 new listings this last week, about 435 new contracts written, 600 and about 20 homes that were sold. So that's up from last week. New contracts are down a little bit. Basically as inventory, I just looked right before we went live here, we're about 2191. So just under 2,200 homes. About 1,300 of those homes are going to be your existing market, about 800 or so, plus or minus, are going to be your new construction. So we're still low on the inventory. We're talking here at the office, just getting more homes on the market. What's that going to take? I think being in an election year, we're kind of seeing a little bit of a slowdown in the uncertainty in any election year. Being a fourth generation realtor, having that experience from my family and going through tons of different election cycles as we go through it. We typically see a little bit of a slowdown in an election year just from that uncertainty. But the housing market always keeps roaring back through that because everyone's got to have a place to live. So as far as the market goes, we're still seeing multiple offers out there. I know appraisals, and we're talking about in the office just as far as closing times, and Russ can maybe touch on this a little bit as well. We're kind of seeing the appraisals just kind of the thing that's the hold up on the quick closing. So we're probably almost 45 to 60 days out on average, where we used to be 30 to 45. That's just simply, with rates being at historical lows, we're seeing a lot of refinances, which is also keeping the appraisers busy. They're out there working their tails off and doing a great job with that. So that's something that if you are in the market and you do have maybe, you have two houses closing on the same day, or you're trying to line that up, but just being conscious of the appraisal situation out there is kind of what we're seeing in that. But it's just, in the multiple offer situations, that's the thing that, a Champions Real Estate Team here, Jeff, myself, Rich, Thor, we have a new team member, Annie Hadford, and Janine Cannon. We can all help you out, position you to compete in the competition, not just participate. We don't want to just write offers just to be writing offers and, and throwing the hat in the ring. We want to get you a seat at the table, in that negotiation table. I think that's the name of the game these days is, when you're competing out there against 5, 10, 15 offers, what can we do to at least get you in front of that seller to have a conversation with them? I think that's our goal, is to do that. And we have different strategies that can help you do that through that process. So, but I guess we can kind of jump in. I will share kind of what the trend graphics chart. I think that's a good, helpful tool here. Where's that? There's on our this one. Facts and trends here. So this basically kind of showing from where we're at last month and even over last year. So we're up from last year about over 6% or 5.8% here in pending. So that basically means we've had more contracts written this month, even though our inventory is down by almost 33%. So the buyers are out there ready to rock and roll. So I think it's kind of the same song and dance we've kind of had this the last couple months through that process of it. And I think interest rates are driving that. So I guess, we'll touch base with Russ here. He can kind of give us an update of what we're seeing in the mortgage industry, of what he's seeing and what the forecast and what we're going to be and all that good stuff. So you're muted, Russ. So.
Everybody, it's good to be online with you again. Mortgage rates are holding relatively steady. They are up just a little bit from last week, and that isn't necessarily driven by the market. That could be driven by what I would call capacity pricing. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of lenders right now are running way above what their capacity is for loans. The market alluded to it earlier that appraisers are backed up just because of the tremendous volume going through the system right now with record low interest rates. Appraisers are taking in some cases 4, 5, 6 weeks, in some markets even more than that. But lenders can only get so many loans through in a shorter period of time. And as a result, we're starting to see some lenders starting to bump their pricing just a little bit, their rates a little bit higher, to try to slow down the new applications coming in. If rates do continue to stay in this range, which we think that they probably will, the good word is getting out there that this is a good time to refinance your home, as well as it's a good time to purchase. And so if that continues, and I expect that it will, we may see more lenders start to use capacity pricing just to slow down the number of applications coming in. So if you have not bought your next house and are thinking about it, get in touch with these folks right away to start looking. So we want to make sure you get the lowest possible rates. The other thing that we're kind of watching, we haven't seen it come to fruition yet, but it could happen, is in cases where there's less than 20% down payment. And again, with conventional loans, you can have down payments as low as 3% for first-time home buyers, 5% thereafter. But in cases of low down payment, this stuff called mortgage insurance comes into play. And over the last several years, the foreclosure rates around the country have been low. And so the cost of mortgage insurance has been kind of easing downward over the last couple of years. Given the current COVID situation, with lots of folks either taking reductions in pay or being on furloughs for a period of time, we're starting to see default and delinquency rates start to rise. And if that does eventually turn into higher rates of foreclosure, it's expected that the cost of mortgage insurance will start to move up. I expect that will be something we'll be talking about more as we head into the winter. So having said all that, I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't already purchased a home and are thinking about it, to get in line now and start trying to find a home, because the likelihood of rates going up is higher than them going down, since we're right now at near all-time record lows. In addition to that, the cost of mortgage insurance reasonably can be expected to increase if we start to see foreclosures rise in the next couple of years. Also, your first-time home buyer money, some of the grant money is running very low right now. I expect that probably maybe another week is all it will last if it doesn't run out this week for some of the free grant first-time home buyer money. But there are still subsidy programs out there for first-time home buyers, not the least of which is the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority, or NIFA. And then there are also some community grant programs available here and there. So all that put together is to say that if you have not refinanced, get in line now quickly. And if you have not purchased a home, this is the time to do it, guys, because the likelihood of prices climbing at this point is higher than them going down, simply based upon normal laws of supply and demand. Anytime you have multiple offers on a property, it's not going to be going for below list price in all likelihood. So hopefully it was okay to say that, Mark, but the point I want to make to people is you got to buy now if you want to buy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We were talking yesterday. We had our Berkshire sales meeting, and they kind of brought up that I believe, I mean, from what they were talking in the meeting, is that for Celebrity Homes, which is a good first-time home buyer, price point where they usually are for the new construction side of it, and their lowest priced home right now for new construction is at $213. So that's one of those things that, anything, to try to find something new construction under $200,000 is really not going to happen. And so those first-time home buyers, that's where that pinch kind of comes in, is you're not building any more of those kind of homes for under 200,000. And so with your buying power right now, with the way interest rates are, you can get into something, maybe that's a new construction if that's the area of town that you want to be in. Typically your new constructions are out, on the outskirts of town because it's new developed land. Or you can get into something under 200,000, with a good interest rate and a good mortgage, payment that you're comfortable with. That's the other thing that when we coach our clients is, go talk to a lender like Russ and figure out what is your purchasing power, and then ultimately the most important is what is your mortgage payment. Last Thursday, we did our renting versus buying seminar. And so that's on our Champions Real Estate Team page, as well as on YouTube, renting versus buying. What is it truly costing you? And it is, we looked at those numbers and literally broke it down. And, if you're waiting 5 years to buy a home, and we use that $200,000 example, that the average rent is about $1,600, $1,700 I've seen in some areas, and the mortgage payment, at the current interest rates was roughly about $1,350. So you're saving $250 a month, and if that appreciation of that house goes up, 3 to 4%, typically we can't guarantee that as real estate agents, but historically that's what we've seen. and in 5 years, you're costing yourself, if I remember correctly, it was like $67,000 just by waiting on the sidelines, and that's just crazy to me that when you think about that, like, our goal as agents is to give you as much information as possible, and whether we need to help, get your credit in line, help you, how can we help you save to build a down payment? Do you need to, stay at home, live with mom and dad for a little bit longer and save that extra $1,600, $1,000 rent payment that you can just, help out at home and stay there for a little bit and increase that buying power. That's just something I think of that when I bought my first house, I stayed at home for a year or so, and built up that initial investment on my house. So, but that's just something I think we see here is with interest rates. It's just crazy that, we as agents like, oh, everyone knows interest rates are low, but do you really know what your interest rate current is, on your house? I had clients that did bought a couple of years ago, they're at 4.5%, rates are down at 3%. You can save yourself a couple $100. That's something that Russ can help you out with. Send him, your mortgage statement of what you get, your monthly statement. He can kind of run the numbers and see, does it make sense for you? And even some of those people that have only bought a couple of years ago may have a good chunk of equity, and they can put down on a house, and with a lower interest rate, if you're at 5.5%, or if you're at 4.5%, 5% interest, and you're down to 3%, you might go from a 200 to a 300 to a 350 house. And if you want that, if you need that bigger space, the opportunity is there to go out there and get it. If you don't, then, refinance, stay where you're at, and that's what we're here for, is to go over those options and just say, does that make sense for you? If it does, great. Let's get a game plan together. If not, let's maybe take some of that equity. And we talked about that renting versus buying, and maybe now you become that landlord that you're renting, and you're gaining that extra income, and building that net wealth through real estate. And I think that's something that there's many different options in real estate to be a homeowner, to be a real estate investor. It's just a different vehicle. We saw with the 401ks and everything, and March and in April, that they tanked. Well, they're getting stimulus checks to pay their rent. Well, if you're a landlord, you're getting, hopefully you're getting that investment through there, and it's going to be a little bit more stable through that turmoil as we see through that. So I don't know if you have anything else to add on there, Jeff or Russ. But
yeah, I'll dovetail on what you just mentioned. We're seeing a number of people, even that bought homes last year, that are realizing with interest rates down like they are, that they can now buy that next home for roughly the same payment or very similar payment to what they're in from last year's payment. That move them up into the next level, higher home. So we're seeing a lot of folks take advantage of that. I want to go back just a little bit too. You mentioned new construction. I visited with a couple of contractors this week that are renovators, as well as one big builder. And we're seeing a breakdown in supply chains, and so material costs have gone up. So this is a good time to lock in your prices now before we see additional price escalation on materials, lumber, whatever it might be, drywall, wiring to build that house. As we all know in this market, it's putting in a brand new runway, and it's going to take up a lot of concrete. Who's checked the price of concrete lately? It's pretty high. It's a good time to build before those prices go up later on.
Yeah, it's always said in our industry, when's the best time to buy new construction? It was yesterday. Because prices go up every day. And we just built the house last year, and our builder we were working with, they had another client, another buyer that was going to be building a house, and they'd been in the process for about a year and a half because they just kept changing things and tweaking things. Well, it'd gone up from the year before up about 25-30%. And they got, and that buyer's like, holy cow, this thing just keeps going up. And he's like, because every time they have to redraft or redo something, they send the bids back out to the subcontractors, and they come back with a little bit higher price. And so obviously that all kind of adds up. And that's kind of why, my wife and I and our family, we pulled the trigger. We bought a lot, was it 4 or 5 years ago. And, we're on that 5-year plan. Oh, let's build our house. Let's do this. Let's save some money. And, we sat down with Russ, I think probably 2.5 years ago, and say, all right, where are we at? And it was just kind of that eye-opening to have, I'm being in the industry, I'm familiar with it, but having my wife sit down, who doesn't do this every day, she's like, oh my gosh, we're not even going to really break even by trying to save more money, because for every $1,000, you're only saving $5 on your monthly payment. So it's like, for every $1,000 you're putting aside in your savings, you're only saving $5. But if those prices keep going up, you're never really going to catch up. So it was one of those, it's like, all right, let's pull the trigger. Interest rates are low. you know, and we're actually refinancing now, which is kind of funny, but we're planning on being in our house. So a long time. So those are some of those things that we're happy to sit down with. And I know Russ, just from a personal aspect of it, that my wife and I sat down, and it was just what's best for us. And then, her and I sat down, and, we had a spreadsheet put together, and, and I do that. I help with my clients in that manner too. Like, hey, let's set up a spreadsheet, and figure out what makes sense for you, and if it does, great. If not, then let's get a plan to get you where you want to be, from that standpoint of it. So yeah, I think this is a lot of good chat. Jeff, you have anything else to add on there? I know you work with a couple of clients that are in the process of buying and, want to do some fixer uppers and stuff like that. I don't know if you want to touch on.
Yeah. I mean, the market's still crazy as far as competitiveness, but it's a great time. Things are moving. Russ is absolutely correct that you do need to get in line if you have any wants and hopes of buying a house, because it can take a time. It can take a couple offers on some things too. So things are still moving. But talk to us. I mean, everyone has a different game plan that they need to put in place. And so talk with us. We'll get it organized for you. So.
Yeah. And the nice thing is we got scouting reports on sellers and buyers, and that's our goal, is to educate you on both sides. Just because you're a buyer, we're not going to talk to you just as a buyer. We're going to talk to you as a seller, how a seller's thinking, and vice versa as a buyer. Well, it's a seller's market. We should price it really, really high. Well, the buyers aren't going to put an offer in because buyers are savvy right now. Is because they've written a couple offers on houses. They've sat down with us and they've gone over a CMA, a market analysis of what they should be writing on a house and what makes sense. And so when you shoot a little higher, those buyers that are educated, know exactly what that house should be worth, and they want it updated. And if it's not updated, then they're going to offer what accordingly, to what the market, because ultimately the market determines the value. The market's not always kind, but the market is always right. That's something I've learned over the 8 years in the industry. Well, not even 8 years, 2008. I can't even do my math right. So 12 years. So anyways, but so I think that's kind of all we had. So the market's going hot. As always, you can jump on our Champions Real Estate Team page here, championsrealestateteam.com. We have our home buyer guides and our home seller guides. So in the buyer guide, basically we have a home evaluation checklist that when you're looking at houses, what to evaluate, and then seller basically getting your house ready to rock and roll. And on our site, you can check out all the active listings. That's one of those things that when you're out on the Zillows and the third-party websites, they're not being as active of keeping the up to date, what's pending, what's been sold. So don't get frustrated when you call us and we tell you, hey, the house is already under contract. Well, our house is on our website. Basically, we'll let you know if they're pending. So if they're pending, they're not going to be on here. So the ones that you're seeing will be the ones that are actively on the market. So check it out. Obviously, you can find out here what your home's worth, kind of a rough estimate. Ultimately, the best way is to get in touch with one of us, and we can do a very detailed market analysis for you. But this can give you a rough idea. So if you want to drop, like Russ said, the mortgage insurance premium. So if you bought a couple of years ago and you think you have that 20% loan to value, jump on here, get a good estimate, and then give us a holler. We're happy to help you to get you that, drop that extra. I know sometimes it's $75, $100, $150 of mortgage insurance. You can cut off your monthly payment. So, but appreciate everyone jumping on and listening to us. If you listen to us later, you can comment. We'll keep track. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. But thanks again, Russ and Jeff, for joining us this week. And we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. As always, have a great weekend and stay cool out there.